everyone, and welcome. I'm Greg Gumbel here with my partner Clark Kellogg, bringing you the 2K Sports Season Preview Show. Here are the Big Five, the top teams in the country as we begin the season. The Kansas Jayhawks come in as the number 1 ranked team, followed by Memphis, North Carolina, Michigan State, and Louisville. What do you think of the top 5 teams going into the year, Clark?
These are some outstanding teams, Greg. Fun to watch. Not many weaknesses. They do so many things well on the basketball court. It's not surprising to see them in the top 5. Every time these teams take the floor, you're assured of seeing entertaining basketball.
The Kansas Jayhawks are projected as the favorites here in the early going. They're in one of the power conferences, Clark. You think they'll be able to withstand the tough schedule?
It's virtually impossible to go through a conference schedule unscathed. They'll probably take their lumps, but it might pay off come tournament time, as tough conferences tend to produce tough teams.
Memphis is in the number 2 spot. They had a nice finish to the year, but it ended with a disappointing loss in the regional final.
They were so close to the Final Four they could taste it. And the memory of that Elite 8 loss should be all the motivation they need this year to work just that little bit harder. We'll see if they can get over the hump this time.
North Carolina comes in as number 3. Their total of 31 wins last season was remarkable.
Trying to live up to that record may be tough, but it's a nice problem to have. They're going to have to rack up a bunch of wins before conference play begins if they want to even come close to that total this season.
Michigan State starts the year as the 4th-ranked team. Their tournament last year came to an abrupt end with a loss in the second round, Clark.
It can be demoralizing for a team not to get past the first weekend of the tournament, but they've had all summer to forget about that loss and instead build on the positives from last season.
Louisville is the number 5 team. They had a wonderful year last season, finishing with 24 wins.
That 20-win plateau is one of those benchmarks in college hoops that immediately classifies you as an elite team. So they're going to have a tough act to follow. But if they simply play to their potential, they can reach that mark again.
Here's the next group of teams in our preseason top 25. What's your impression of that set of teams?
We've seen so many eventual champions that were ranked in the middle of the pack during preseason that these teams have to like their chances. It's not where you start, it's where you finish that counts.
The Duke Blue Devils, the number 10 team, have stirred up a lot of talk in the offseason. Their dreams of tournament glory last year were quickly dashed in a first-round loss.
This year they have the potential to do much better than last. Last season they spent a lot of their energy getting to March Madness and were worn out once they got there. I'll bet they handled the journey to the tournament much better this time.
The Marquette Golden Eagles, the number 9 team, have also generated a lot of interest. They're ranked where they are because it's almost impossible to find anything wrong with this team.
Nearly every team has an Achilles heel or a weakness, but this team is so well balanced, they're going to be a tough matchup for anybody.
Okay, Clark, let's take a look at the teams that close out the preseason top 25 poll. What do you think of this collection?
I'm not convinced that all of these teams belong in the top 25. I don't want to pick out anyone in particular, but I think some teams that aren't on the list could make a pretty strong case as to why they belong here.
The Texas Longhorns, the number 18 team, could be one to watch. This team may lean on some untested players this season, but that might not be a bad thing, Clark.
A few of the players on this team who didn't get the chance to play quality minutes last season are poised to step right into the spotlight and have breakout years this season. You may not know their names now, but you will soon.
The Maryland Terrapins, the number 25 team, are also worth keeping an eye on. What stands out to you if you're trying to get a read on the character of this team, Clark?
Over the past few years, this team has shown an ability to overcome any adversity that comes their way. That toughness has become their trademark, and it will work for them again this season.
We now head to the part of the show where we break down the top players in the nation and show you our preseason All-American list. What you see before you is the cream of the crop in college hoops. What a list. What's your take on the first teamer at the top of the list, Clark?
Lawson is a force to be reckoned with, Greg. He exploits every opponent weakness and then uses his skill to dominate games. No matter what, he'll find a way to get the job done and lead his team to victory.
As for our next first teamer, Davidson is more than willing to go into battle with him, Clark.
Really is an elite talent. That's a given.
There's plenty to like about him as a player. He's got that deadly combination of smarts and physical skills that makes him so difficult to defend. A coach's mentality in the body of a world-class athlete. Any questions as to why he's on the list?
Next up is a player that's drawing comparisons to some of the all-time college greats. The Texas Tech Red Raiders are fortunate to have him in their corner.
Zeno is a first-teamer without a doubt. He has such versatility. He can take it and rake it, get down the court with the ball and make plays. He'll be a nearly impossible matchup for their opponents.
Let's move on to a player who's worked very hard to earn his spot on the list. The North Carolina Tar Heel can depend on a solid effort from him each and every night.
Hansbrough is the anchor of his team, and if they're going to the promised land, he's the one that's going to lead them there. We always talk about the guys with great hands. Well, he's got great feet. I love those happy feet. There are few players in the nation with better footwork than him, and that's what allows him to always be in the right position, whether it comes to rebounding or finding space for an open shot.
And finally, we have another superb player to round out the first team. The UCLA Bruins will probably get used to seeing him make the impossible look ordinary.
Love already has opposing coaches drawing up game plans designed to stop him, but it won't matter what they come up with. Give him too much room and he'll burn you off the dribble. Or play him tight and watch him find a teammate for an easy hoop. One way or the other, he's unstoppable.
As we move to the second team All-Americans, we can see there's no shortage of talent with this group. They're all elite players with the potential to dominate the game. The Memphis Tigers have built their team around this young man's talent, and I'd say that's a pretty good idea.
Rose was a very hard player to leave off the first team. If I had to pick some frontrunners for the Player of the Year award, he would be right there on the list. I've seen him take over games even when he isn't scoring 30. There are some great scorers among these All-Americans, and he's one of them, but he does much more than score.
Our next player is a tremendous talent in his own right. Tennessee is in for a great year if he lives up to his potential.
Lofton is someone you could look at as last season progressed and see his improvement on a weekly basis. I have no doubt he belongs on this All-American team, and I think the sky's the limit for him this season.
We can all look forward to some very exciting highlights from this young man this year. The Tennessee Volunteers are looking for a lot of production from him, and they probably won't be disappointed.
Smith has terrific skill in so many facets of the game. It isn't out of the realm of possibility to say that he might even be a little bit underrated. I know it seems far-fetched to say that about a preseason All-American pick, but I'm not sure people realize just what a huge year he's in for, Greg.
Our next All-American may have designs on the first team by the end of the season. Memphis has one of the most reliable go-to guys in the country in him.
Dorsey was one of the first players that came to mind when I was thinking of the top 10 players in the nation. The success of his team rests directly on his shoulders, and I believe he has the ability to take them all the way to the title.
And here we have the final player on our list of All-Americans, the Georgetown Hoyas. Know who their fan favorite is going to be this year.
Hibbert is last but not least on the All-American list. His upside is higher than a lot of the other guys here because he has so much raw ability. He could jump to the first team this year if he harnesses all that ability into the complete package.
All right, Clark, that about wraps things up. On behalf of State Farm and the crew, I'd like to thank you again for joining us on the 2K Sports Season Preview. We'll see you during the season. So long, everyone.
Yo, this is ZentroVerted Gamer here, and welcome to the What If Memphis Tigers basketball program 2007-2008, where we'll be taking control of the Memphis basketball team and with head coach John Calipari and seeing what we can do with it. I'm kicking the series off today, but if you want to find out what the series is about and where it's headed, check out episode 1 dropping on Christmas Day tomorrow. But I figured we could just get right on into it. A little early holiday present. We got Tiger Madness up next, getting ready to kick off the season officially and see what our roster looks like. Let's get it.